This is Ling Chi, brush painting for beginners, and from Oriental Art Supply, OAS. And today we're going to do a pine tree as a host and then a landscape around it. We did the pine tree last week. So if you want to know exactly how in detail on how I do the pine tree, you can go to that session. Today I will do the pine tree very quickly. Mostly is to see that how I do the rest of the landscape around this pine tree. I'm also going to use a little bit different brushes because a lot of people has bought brushes, but they don't always knows how to use it. And a versatile artist, a lot of times that they can use one brush to make everything work. But for beginners, sometimes a special character of a brush will help you to make your work much easier. Last week we did the pine needle by pine needle brush or mountain horse vine. This week I'm going to use small twig brush, and this brush is short and sharp. And so when you, as a beginner, when you don't have a lot of control, then the pine needle is skinny, longer, so sometimes it's harder to control. The same thing with mountain horse vine. So you can see the short stubby brush. It's much easier to control. So I'm going to use mostly pine tree with this twig brush. And then I will use the flow brush for some of the shading area. And then I will use the our full moon brush for the purple mountain and shading area. I have two sample paintings, one with sky, one without sky. But the reason I use large full moon is because it's longer. So I can load the brush shallower and still have this fading area. Say the flow brush, if I load shallow, then the area of the clear water fading area is much smaller, so it's harder. Is that possible to do? Yes, if you know how to maneuver the brush. But I just want to make the beginner make it easier. So today, the three brushes: twig brush, flow brush, and large full moon. The color I'm going to use today is our companion 12 color set, which is very easy to use. And then Bass Bottle ink. So I'm going to pour the straight ink from this little dish. And then I will use a little bit of the ink to make a lighter ink. So I have medium ink and a straight dark ink. And then I will use vermilion. With a little tiny bit of ink. As my brown. Then I will use the ochre with the green. For the underneath the house. Then purple mountain is a tricky color to make. So this purple here is a little bit on the blue side. So my purple mountain is more on the warmer side. So I'm going to use some carmine to warm it up. I'm using some of this brown, which is a vermilion ink. To tone down my purple. So I'm going to use a little ink. So this is my purple shade for the mountain. Okay, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to use the Twig Brush to do my pine tree quickly. If you miss the last week's pine tree lesson, so you can go back, it's the same thing as the last week. So I'm loading the light ink. So I have small needle, large needle, small needle, small needle. So one long, one short. And then I will tap a little bit green from the palette. And then I'm going to be overlap on this side. So you can see I'm overlapping. So the first needle already underneath. A bit darker underneath. Short, long, short, long, long, short, short, long, and long, short. Then I'm going to have another group a little bit underneath diagonally. Okay, so same twig brush. I'm going to use this straight ink. From hair point then I'm going to from here and then connect it. So this side is a little longer than this. And then I'm going to use my flow brush with the brown and with a little ink. Then I'm using some happy dot with a straight ink to accent my tree. And then I use the pine needle, twig brush with a little green and with a little ink. And I'm doing another group right here underneath of the bamboo, pine needle. So then I'm using the twig brush to connect these pine needle with breaking that line that I don't like it there with someone pine needle. Okay, and then I'm going to use my twig brush. That's another thing, because this brush that is sharp on the top, so it doesn't doesn't hold too much liquid. So when I wanted a texture look, I could. And then the same twig brush, I'm going to do the line of my house. So medium light ink right underneath my house. Okay, and then I will do a very dry light ink to ground my house. Okay, now I'm going back on my flow brush. Using a little vermilion with my brown, soften it up for the roof. Okay, and then the same brush, I'm going to use that green I mixed with, which is ochre with green, and then to do the underneath. Okay, and then I will use the same brush tip with green and with ink on the top, soften it up. So I will have like these little trees by the house. And then under here, I'm going to use some ink, dry. Some happy dot and a little brown. And then some ink, accent it. Okay, so now I have this pre-mixed purple, and I'm loading the brush. It's about, I would say, 1/5 of the brush. Light ink. So this is my little purple mountain. And you can just leave it here, but I'm going to show you how to do my little bit my sky. So the same theory. I'm going to have a little bit purple, my first color, with a little vermilion, and then a little bit blue. This blue is pretty bright, so I'm kind of softening it up with the ink. Purple with a little vermilion ink to soften it up, with a little blue. Like a little sunset color. So just to be a little bit more clear on the sky color, I have load my brush about 1/5 with purple I have, and a little bit vermilion, and a little bit sky blue, and then because it's pretty sharp, so I add some ink to it. So then I go from the left to the right, and then make sure that your middle is narrower, so your sky on the both side is a little bit longer. So I leave some space in the middle, and then this other side, and I go from here and overlapping. So it's a little bit drier than what I like, so I can just use a flow brush to smooth it out. And then I'm overlapping. So I'm going to soften it up with the flow brush. So it's all about fading. So you can see the dark, it's like the dark sky cloud. So I want to leave the middle emptier. So I want to make sure these are faded away. So this is finish my pine tree with landscape. I hope you enjoyed it.